Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we turn confusing corporate documents into something you can actually understand. Today we're diving into a proxy statement from Enviri Corporation, and let me tell you, this thing is packed. It's like a really complicated family reunion, but instead of awkward small talk, we get to dissect executive pay and board shenanigans. But first the headline, Enviri's got a board shakeup coming. Some directors are retiring, new ones are being nominated, and everyone's voting on, well, everything. So let's get started. Okay, first things first, this is a Schedule 14A or proxy statement, which means Enviri needs your vote on some important company matters. It's basically corporate housekeeping. The annual meeting is set for April 24th, 2025, and they're doing it virtually, so no need to book a flight to Philadelphia. Here's a quick rundown of what you as a stockholder get to weigh in on. There are 6 proposals. You'll be voting on who gets to be on the board, whether to approve their auditors, how much the executives get paid, and some changes to their stock plans. The board is recommending that you vote for all of them, of course. We'll see if we agree later. Let's talk about the people running the show, the board of directors. There are 8 nominees up for election, including one new face, Nicholas Fanandakis, a retired executive from DuPont. They're also saying goodbye to independent lead director David Everett and Philip Widman. The company wants to refresh its board with 3 new members in 4 years. What's corporate governance, you ask? It's basically how the company is run, and Enviri seems pretty keen on doing it right. They have 3 independent board committees, an independent lead director, and the directors meet without management present to keep things transparent. The board is also focusing on risk oversight, including environmental, social, and governance issues, as well as cybersecurity threats, so that's good. Time for the juicy stuff, executive compensation. This section explains how Enviri pays its top dogs. Key takeaway, they say they pay for performance. A big chunk of executive pay is tied to how well the company does. They also say they pay competitively, targeting the median or middle of what similar companies pay. The company follows a number of compensation guidelines and policies implemented to manage its programs in a prudent and risk-averse manner. Okay, now we get to the part where they introduce the 5 highest paid executives or named executive officers. As we get to our individual officers, we'll see that Grasberger is the chairman, president, and CEO. Remember, this proxy statement and the accompanying form of proxy are first being sent to the stockholders on or about March 12, 2025. If you owned Enviri stock as of February 24th, 2025, you are eligible to vote. If you hold your shares through a broker and don't provide voting instructions, your broker may vote on the ratification of the auditors, but they can't vote on things like electing directors or executive compensation without your say-so. For electing directors, it's a majority vote, meaning more for votes than against. The other proposals need the okay from a majority of shares present and entitled to vote. With a certificate of incorporation, the vote requires affirmative of the holders of at least a majority of the shares outstanding. Time to put names to faces. The report lists all the executive officers of the company. It is important to check that a company has qualified people leading its units. Alright, let's look at the board of directors. 8 of the 9 current directors are considered independent. The main consideration with whether an officer is independent is whether they are unduly biased. Enviri currently has 1 person serving as both chairman and CEO. It is something that the company has thought about, but has decided that for the time being it would be best if both positions were held by the same person. The governance committee goes through every candidate to determine their worthiness. They generally want candidates with integrity, judgment, strategy, and leadership. To ensure an appropriate mix of characteristics, skills, experiences, and backgrounds, the board has adopted a board diversity policy. Independent directors who are members of the audit committee of no more than 3 public companies, including the board. A director has to, the chairman, know if they plan on joining another board of directors. The board makes sure that the company is not taking too many risks. The board has delegated to the audit committee responsibility for overseeing management's implementation and effectiveness of the company's processes and risk management protocols regarding cybersecurity and information technology. The company's Vice President, Chief Information Security Officer, and Corporate IT oversees the company's IT security department and reports to the Audit Committee quarterly regarding cybersecurity matters and related risk exposures. The Governance Committee receives quarterly reports from management on the company's environmental and sustainability activities and risks, including risks related to climate change and key performance indicators the company uses to track performance. The board held 9 meetings during the fiscal year ended December 31, 2024. Each director attended at least 75% of the aggregate number of board and applicable committee meetings held during 2024. The board has adopted corporate governance principles that, along with the charters of the board committees, provide the framework for our board's operation and governance. The board has established a formal process for stockholders and interested parties to communicate directly with the lead director, the head non-management directors, or with any individual member of the board. You can contact the board by email or regular mail. The board has affirmatively determined that the following 8 directors are independent. There are specific requirements in order to be considered independent as determined by the SEC. Now, let's look at what the directors get paid for their service. Each board member receives a $75,000 annual retainer. Committee chairs also get extra, and to make sure they're invested in the company's success, they're required to own stock worth 5 times their annual retainer. Here is a table of the 2024 director compensation. We can see David Everett made $254 Shoal as lead director. This section lays out who owns how much of Enviri's stock. BlackRock Inc. owns 17.1% and the Vanguard Group Inc. owns 7.1% and the Vanguard Group Inc. owns 7.13%. The audit committee reviewed and discussed with management and the independent auditors the audited consolidated financial statements for the year ended December 31, 2024 and related periods. For the audit services, PwC was paid $4,300,000. Interestingly, the audit committee switched from PwC to Deloitte & Touche as the company's independent registered public accounting firm. That's a pretty big change. Although not required to do so, the board has determined to submit the audit committee's appointment of Deloitte as our independent auditors to stockholders for ratification as a matter of good corporate governance. And now we get to the executive compensation section. This CDNA reviews the objectives and elements of Enviri's executive compensation program and discusses the 2024 compensation earned by our NEOs. In 2024, Enviri achieved year-over-year revenue and earnings growth on an organic basis, driven by effective execution across its business segments. What happens if the executives get fired or there's a change in company ownership? This section details potential payouts, which include severance packages and accelerated vesting of stock options. This is a common practice, designed to protect executives during uncertain times. This table outlines shares outstanding and available in equity compensation plans. It tells us how much skin in the game executives and employees have. Time for the say on pay vote. This proposal asks you, the shareholder, to give a thumbs up or thumbs down to the executive compensation packages. It's advisory, meaning the company doesn't have to listen, but it's a good way to make your voice heard. The company is asking 400,000 more shares. The purpose of such grants is to help align interests of executives to those of long-term stockholders. Okay, so what's the big picture here? Enviri is going through some changes. They're refreshing the board, switching auditors, and asking for more shares for their compensation plans. It seems like they're trying to streamline operations and focus on sustainable solutions. The numbers for 2024 show okay performance, but with some losses. They have to reduce long-term debt, which is very important. Now, my take. Enviri is at a crossroads. The board changes could bring fresh perspectives, but it's important to make sure these changes align with the company's strategy. The say on pay vote is your chance to tell them whether you think they're rewarding the right things. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of corporate documents.